Namaskar. Welcome to my class. Today we shall discuss To Autumn by John Keats. Before I start, let me tell you, my dear friends, that John Keats was an English romantic poet. Now, this particular work, To Autumn, was composed on the 19th of September 1819 and it was published in 1920. This was a part of the volume of poetry that also included Lamia and the Eve of Saint Agnes. This was composed after the poet had taken a walk near Winchester, Winchester, one autumn evening. Dear friends, if you ask me what might be the question on this poem, I would inform you that the question will be something of this sort: to autumn evaluate or appreciate to autumn as an ode. So you must all know the characteristics of an ode. Now, this word ode has been derived from the Greek aedein, Aeidin, meaning to sing or chant. Now, an ode is a lyric poem in praise of somebody or something. It is the longest of lyric poems. The poet apostrophizes a person or a thing. It is always in the form of an address to an to a person or a thing which is absent. That is called apostrophe. 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 Apostrophizing somebody is to address somebody who is absent, whether it is a thing or a person, as if he is absent. Now, an ode expresses noble and lofty sentiments. The tone is often formal and the style is elevated. And this has an elaborate and complex stanzaic structure. Now, let us go back to this particular poem. This poem has three stanzas of 11 lines each. Now, as you all know, that romantic movement was a movement that brought back poets to the world of nature. So, in this poem, we will find a number of references to the world of nature. So, let us find out what the poet writes about autumn. Season of mists and mellow fruitfulness, close bosom friend of the maturing sun, conspiring with him how to load and bless with fruit the vines that round the thatches run. Now you can see autumn is the season of mists and mellow fruitfulness. So what is the meaning of that? So mellow is pleasantly smooth and soft. So this is the season of mists also. Mists are droplets of water suspended in cold air. So this is the season of mists and mellow fruitfulness. So this is the season when the fruits ripen. The sun's light helps all fruits and vegetables grow. And therefore, the poet says this is the season of mists as well as mellow fruitfulness. Close bosom friend of the maturing sun. This is the close bosom friend of the sun. Autumn, the season autumn is the, as if it is a human being. So this is personification, use of personification. The poet has personified the season autumn and he calls him autumn You are the close bosom friend of the maturing sun. Maturing, perhaps autumn is November onwards. November, December, this is the time when you have autumn. So, this is the time when fruits ripen, autumn. So, this is the this is towards the end of the year. So, perhaps that is why the poet says, you are the close bosom friend of a maturing sun. Maybe a polite way of saying sun is getting old. So with him means the sun. Conspiring is to working together. So you are working together with the sun for what? How to load and bless with fruit the vines that round the thatch eaves run. Thatch eaves are the edge of the thatched roofs. Now, vines are those creepers. So you load the trees as well as the creepers. O autumn, you load the trees as well as the creepers with many fruits. That is when we find many fruits, and these fruits ripen. To bend with apples, the mossed cottage trees. So there are cottage trees. There are trees which are mossed. Moss have grown on them. What is moss? Moss is a non-flowering plant. Old trees, they have moss growing over them. So these are moss trees, and there are so many apples that the branches are bending down. So to bend with apples, the mossed cottage trees. So these trees are bending down with fruits, with apples, and fill all the fruit with ripeness to the core. Ripeness to the core means fully ripe. Ripeness, you have filled, oh, autumn, you have filled its fruit with ripeness. They are full of juice. They are full of sweetness. They are full of fragrance. So, if the fruits are ripe to the core, to the very core, to the very center, I mean, if they are completely ripe, it is because of this season, autumn. You swell the gourd, the size increases, the size of the gourd increases. Plump the hazel cells. Plump is to make something fatter. Hazel is a plant that produces the nuts that add flavor to the coffee. So you feel you feel everything with a flavor, with a sweetness, with juice. You swell the gourd. You plump the hazel shells with what? With a sweet kernel. Kernel is the inner soft part of a seed or fruit stone or nut. So you fill everything up with sweetness, with juice, with an essence, with a fragrance. So that is what you are doing. To set budding more and still more, later flowers for the bees. So you also, do this. There is a lot of flowering that takes place during this season. So there is a lot of flowering. So bees have plenty of honey to collect. So the bees gather to collect plenty of honey from the flowers, and there is so much honey. There are so many flowers blooming that the bees think, until they think, warm days will never cease. Cease is stop. So the bees think that the summer will never end, and that flowers will always be in bloom. They will be blooming. There will be plenty of flowers for them throughout the year, throughout the rest of the year, to collect honey. There is an unending amount of honey that they collect. For summer has overbrimmed thy clammy cells. Overbrimmed is to to flow over the brim. Brim is the edge of something, to overflow. So later, when summer comes, these fruits are, these flowers are overflowing with honey. There are so many fruits, so many flowers that everything is overflowing with honey. And what is clammy? Clammy is something damp, sticky. If the fruit is overripe, it becomes, if you touch it, it is slimy, it feels slimy, sticky, chipku chipku, it feels damp. So, this is where the first stanza ends. And in the first stanza, you must have seen there is an apostrophe, which is used in the very first sentence. The poet addresses autumn in the very first line, and he calls him the season of mists and mellow fruitfulness. And there is personification in the second line, mists and mellow, ma. This is an example of alliteration. So there is alliteration, there is apostrophe, there is personification also. In the first two lines, you find examples of that. Then, then let us go to, and there is, as I told you, plenty of images, visual images, images where you can touch things. I mean, how you feel when you touch an overripe fruit. It feels slimy, damp, and sticky. And there is a lot of essence. Flowers are full of honey, essence. So there is a lot of images um, which you can see. And flowers are there, fruits are there. There are trees, there are apple trees, there are, moss, there are fruits, apples, there is plum, there are gourds, cornels, all these things are there. Plenty of flowers. So these things show that the world of nature is available in plenty. Let us go to the second stanza. Who hath not seen thee oft amid thy store? So this is in the second stanza. The poet the poet describes the figure of autumn as a female goddess, as a female goddess. So he asks a question. This is called a rhetorical, rhetorical, rhetorical question. The poet doesn't intend to get an answer from you, but rather this rhetorical question is used to heighten the dramatic effect. So he's saying, who has not seen thee? Who has not seen you? Often amid thy store. Store refers to where the grains are stored. So this is the harvest season. Later part of autumn is the harvest season. So the poet is saying, we all find you amid the store, amid thy store. Sometimes whoever seeks abroad may find thee sitting careless on a granary floor. Granary is where the grain is collected. So at times, again, personification of autumn, as if autumn is a human being and it is sitting on the floor of a granary. So if we look abroad, if we look outside, we can find you sitting on the floor of the granary where grains are collected. Thy hair soft lifted, your hair is soft lifted, lifted high up. So, from this, we understand that the poet considers autumn as a female goddess. He says, oh, yes, we can find you sitting on the granary floor with your hair uplifted, soft lifted by the winnowing wind. Wow, wow. Alliteration. What is winnowing? Winnow is to separate the grain from the chaff. Grain is attached to the chaff. So now after the grain is harvested, after the grain is caught and carried away to the granary, there there after it goes to the barn first. In the barn the grain is separated from the chaff. So winnowing, you have winnowing fans. Winnowing fans ଆମର ଦେଖ ଆମର ଓଡ଼ିଶାରେ ଯୋଉମାନେ ଗ୍ରେନ୍ ଟା ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ କଲେକ୍ଟ କରିସାରୁ ଗୋଟେ थ्रेसिंग मशीन अच्छे ताको पिटा जाए थ्रेसिंग कर तापर सेपरेट हो गला ता देरे इम्प्यूरिटीज मिसिक थाए तो सेपरेट द इम्प्यूरिटीज जोड़ा लाइट इम्प्यूरिटीज वी यूज ए विनोइंग फैन कुल्ला कुल्ला ताको आमे यूज करू द फार्मर्स यूज ए विनोइंग फैन to separate the light particles from the grain. So your hair soft lifted by the winnowing wind because there is a lot of winnowing activity because the farmers try to separate the grain from the chaff and separate the impurities from the grains. They use in that wind they use winnowing fans, and in that the wind lifts your hair softly upwards. Or you can also be found in a half-reaped furrow, sound asleep. What is a furrow? Furrow is a long, narrow trench made into the ground by a plough, especially for planting the seed. You must have seen the farmers plough the field and then they put seeds into the holes. So he says, we can find you in a half-reaped field lying deep asleep. You are sleeping there, sound asleep. Okay? Drowsed with, as if you are drowsed with poppy. The fume of poppies. Poppy is अफीम. तो अफीम टिके खाइदेले अफीम इज ए सेडेटिव जोड़ा तुमको इट्स ए नार्कोटिक सब्सटेंस इट इज ए सेडेटिव इट मेक्स यू स्लीप कला कला रंगर ब्लैक इट्स ब्लैक इन कलर तुम देखिथिबो बहुत बुढ़ा बुढ़ी लोक माने से अफीम खाती एंड वेरी फ्यू पीपल टेक दैट सेटा गोटे चीप तमे कहि परिबो गाँ स्पेशली विलेज रे से लोक माने ताऊ खाती सो सेटा तो आज इफ यू आर as if you have taken a sedative, poppy, and you are sleeping comfortably, while thy hook spares the next swath. What is hook? Hook is a sheath, SCYTH. What is a sheath? Sheath is a tool used for cutting crops such as grass or corn. So this is a tool used to cut crops. So the activity of cutting the crop was going on. You were taking swaths. Swath is a broad strip or area of something. You were cutting down corns over a large area. Part of that you are already caught with a caught with a hook. Then you took poppy and you were falling asleep. So your work was still not completed, but you were falling asleep. Spares the next swath and all its twined flowers. Twined flowers means to twist together, intertwined, to twist together or intertwine, uh, twisted together. So the flowers are still there. The next patch of land is still there, but we can find you sleeping there, sleeping in the field. And sometimes, like a gleaner, thou dost keep steady thy leaden head across a brook. At times, we can find you in the field. At times, we can find you on a on the granary floor. Then, like a gleaner, what is a gleaner? Gleaner is one who gathers the remaining food after the reaper has harvested the field. The field has been harvested. Most of the corn has been taken away. Only a little is left. Right? So, like a gleaner, someone carries this left out corn. So, like a gleaner, you keep steady thy leaden head across a brook. What is leaden? Leaden means loaded down. So you have already collected the remaining part of the uh, grains. You have you have tied that into a bundle, and you are carrying the bundle on your head, and we can find you across a brook. What is a brook? Brook is a stream. We can find you passing by a brook. So these are images, images which you usually find in the village areas where a lot of cultivation takes place. You can find people carrying, cutting down, you know uh, uh, corn, making bundles of them, and carrying those bundles home. So the poet, describes in such a way that if you close your eyes, you feel as if the same thing is happening, and autumn is involved in all these processes vigorously. There is a complete involvement of autumn in all these activities. Or we can also find you by a cider press. What is a cider press? Cider press is a press for crushing apples to make cider. Cider is an alcoholic drink. So, it is an alcoholic drink made from fermented apple juice. So, or we can find you by a cider press with patient look. Thou watchest the last oozings hours by hours. Oozing is the last drop coming out. Suppose it is coffee. You like coffee, and there is a little coffee left at the bottom of the cup. So what do? You tilt the cup fully so that the last drop, and you take your tongue out, and you catch the last drop that comes out. So similarly, we can also find you by the cider press where apple juice is taken out, a juice is taken out from the apple. You patiently watch. We can find you watching the last drop coming out from apples. So for long hours you work there, hours by hours. We watch you, and we can find you there. So these are again, the world of nature. Plenty of world of nature, plenty of activities you can see. Uh, then these are the different places I have already mentioned. Granary floor is where he finds autumn, and then in a half ripped furrow, you are lying deep asleep, as if you have been sedated, as if you have taken poppy, and you are like a gleaner. You are like a gleaner. It is as if you are collecting the left out grain and making a bundle of it and carrying it by a brook. Brook is a stream. You are carrying it by a stream. And then there is the cider press where you can find you. You are watching the last drop of juice oozing out, coming out from the apple. Now, this is the second stanza. Now, we shall go to the third and concluding stanza. Where are the songs of spring? Hey, where are they? Now, this where are they is called a Ubisunt motif. Ubisunt, Ubisunt motif. Now, what is this Ubisunt motif? It is a literary motif dealing with the transience of life. Life is temporary, life is transitory, life is, it lasts for a short moment. So, where are they? The name comes from a Latin phrase. This ubisunt, ubisunt. This comes from a Latin phrase which means where are those who are before us, who were before us, who came here before us, came to the world before us. Think not of them. Thou hast thy music too. So don't think of others. Don't think of those people who have already passed away, who have died, who have left this world, you have plenty of music in you. While barred clouds bloom, the soft dying day, barred clouds bloom. Ba, blue. Baba. Baba sound again alliteration. Huh? Barred clouds. So clouds which have been prevented in some way. Bloom. Bloom is to color with a soft, warm tint or glow. Colored with a soft, warm tint or glow. So when barred clouds bloom, the soft dying day is another example of alliteration, and touch the stubble plains. Stubble, stubble is the remaining stumps of plants after reaping. So after reaping a small part of close to the ground, a small part is left out. Small part of the that plant is left out, which is very close to the ground. This is called stubble. So dying day obviously da sound alliteration, it refers to the end of the day. So end of the day, so the sun has a rosy hue, rosy color, and that rosy color touches the stubble plains. The plains which are the fields which are filled with stubbles, which are left with stubbles. You know, you make everything appear rosy, these stubbles. Then in a willful choir, willful, sad, it's a choir. Choir is a group. The small gnats mourn. Gnats are small two-winged fly that resemble a mosquito. Gnats are, you know, like grasshoppers, bigger than mosquitoes. Grasshopper is a little bigger. ତାଠୁ ଟିକେ ମାନେ ଆମେ ଯେମିତି କହିବା ଗୋଟେ ଭିରୁଡି ଟାଇପର ବିରୁଡି ଟାଇପର ସେ ଗୋଟେ ଇନସେକ୍ଟ. So these, because the day is going to an end, because the activities, autumn is going to end. This is late autumn when the fields are cultivated. So obviously, after autumn, there will be very little, maybe they will find little food in the fields. Human beings can collect things and keep at home. But what will the animals do? What will the insects do? Perhaps that is why, because human beings have already taken away everything, they have collected everything, they have carried away everything home. So these insects are mourning. Mourn is to express their sadness. So besides, the day is going to end. It is a dying day. The day is going to uh, end. So the gnats are mourning. Among the river shallows are willow trees. So they are sitting somewhere on the branches of the shallow trees and they are mourning. They are singing. So, the poet says, where are the songs of spring? These creatures provide the song. They sing songs during the spring. Now, among the river shallows, born aloft or sinking as the light wind leaves or dies. ତମେ ଦେଖିଥିବ ଯେତେବେଳେ ୱିଣ୍ଡଟା ସପୋଜ କୋଉଠି ଦୂରରେ ଗୋଟେ ମାଇକ୍ କ୍ୟାସେଟ୍ ପ୍ଲେୟର ଗୋଟେ ବାଜୁଛି, ଆଉ ତୁମେ ୟୁ ଆର୍ ସମ୍ ଡିଷ୍ଟାନ୍ସ ଆୱେ, ସପୋଜ ହାଫ୍ ଏ କିଲୋମିଟର ଦୂରରେ ଅଛ. when the breeze blows towards your house, you can hear the song, and when the breeze blows in the opposite direction, it dies. You can't hear the song. Similarly, so it is born aloft. Aloft is higher when the born is carried. Bear, bore, burn. So born is carried. It is carried higher. You can hear a loud voice when the breeze blows towards you, and it dies when the wind goes away from you. So we can hear, at times you hear, at times you can't hear. So we hear the voice of gnats among the river, among the trees which are very close to the river, and full grown lambs loud beat from hilly bourne. Bourne is a small stream. From the sides of hilly bournes, hilly streams, full grown lambs loud. Lambs loud, again alteration, law law sound. These lambs, full grown lambs, adult lambs, they bleat. Bleat is the sound that the lambs produce from the hilly streams. So there are streams, the lambs are there grazing somewhere close to these streams, and they are bleating. We can hear their bleating noise, bleating sound. Hedge cricket sing. Cricket is jinkari. Jinkari is very close to cricket. Cricket the cricket jinkari जो झिं 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 sound करे. So we can hear the sounds of hedge crickets also. Huh? Cricket is not a game here. It is an insect. So that insect is also singing. And now with treble soft, the red breast whistles from the garden cropped. What is a red breast? Red breast is a fly catcher. Red breast is a bird. It's a fly catcher. It catches fly. That red breast is whistling. Where from it is whistling? The garden cropped. Garden cropped is a small enclosed field. So from that small enclosed field, from somewhere, this, you know, uh, red breast whistles. So these are the different types of uh, noises that we can hear. And gathering swallows twitter in the skies. And swallows also twitter in the skies. They also, while they are running back to their nests, they are flying back to their nests, and they are also twittering. So these are the different insects which sing during the springtime. And as I have already told, there are various, these are the various songs that we hear during autumn. So, so as I told you in the beginning, there are plenty. There is plenty of nature in this poem. So the question will be appreciate to autumn as a as an ode. So there you have to write what is an ode and what are the different features of an ode, and besides you have to explain how the poet has used the world of nature in this particular poem. Thank you very much.